Some people are just driven. A Brooklyn street fighter's defiant pursuit of superstardom.
Deep inside Mike's mind, I better do this or I'm dead.
Never before seen images, stories, and revelations from the people who know what really happened.
We used to do like a lot of burglaries.
I told him that if he ever did anything like that to my family again, I'd kill him.
Because they lived it with him.
The tough street kid became this awesome fighter.
Come on! This is Driven, Mike Tyson. Come on!
Mike Tyson was born June 30th, 1966.
We grew up in Bedford-Stuyvesant. It was a pretty tough area.
Gangs, drugs, crime, unemployment, and terrible schools.
It was not a happy upbringing.
Mike didn't come from a normally functioning family.
It was Lorna, Mike's mother, Jimmy Kilpatrick, his dad, Denise Tyson, Rodney Tyson, and Mike Tyson.
His father supposedly was a pimp. We don't know for sure, but that's what people say.
When Mike Tyson was 2, his father abandoned the family.
Mike, he had a lot of hostility against his father. Raised his father up and left him.
His mother was the person that he loved the most in his whole life.
His mother was a real caring woman for everybody. You know, you come around there, his mother showed a lot of people love, and Mike really loved his mother.
Slowly, over time, they moved from Bedford-Stuyvesant to a slightly smaller apartment in a slightly worse neighborhood, and ultimately they crash-landed in Brownsville. Probably the toughest and poorest neighborhood in New York City.
There's so much violence and crime, people robbing, stealing, shooting.
People were doing drugs and numbers.
People was doing what they had to do to survive.
Life was difficult for Mike Tyson, for his brother, for his sister, and for his mom. He had a stepfather there for a while.
Tyson's mother and this guy had like fights, and sometimes physical fights.
The stories always were that his stepfather abused his mother, physically abused his mother, and that Mike Tyson, as a young boy, witnessed that.
And Tyson was too small to interfere.
We knew he was strict, you know. Whenever Mike got in trouble, he would chastise him, beat him.
And so what Mike Tyson saw all the time was sort of violence and dysfunction and real sort of absence of nurturing. When Mike Tyson was very small, he was picked on all the time.
He was very shy, and he was a very timid kid.
He was a perfect victim.
Used to call him Dirty Mike,
Fat Mike.
Big Head Mike.
He had a lisp and a sort of high voice.
He spoke like a little girl.
The nickname they gave him was Little Fairy Boy, and that stuck with him and made him, you know, a recluse.
Pigeons became this sort of escape for him. You know, he had pigeons on the roof, and he would go up and release them.
He'd go with them pigeons, and he could stay from sun up to sundown.
They were his friends because the pigeons would always be there.
I think he put his soul into the bird.
He just felt so at peace with these pigeons, like so at ease. Like he didn't have nothing to worry about.
That's the sense of getting away. You know, I mean, everyone has their own way of just disappearing, and that's his way.
There was not only a freedom there that he didn't have, but there was also a return. They always came home. You know, he never had that. He didn't have that sense of home. There was a transition in Tyson's life revolving around his pigeons.
A bully got hold of one of his pigeons and broke its neck, you know, just to show Mike, you know, who was boss.
And Tyson went berserk.
And he fought back, you know, for the first time.
All that fear, all that energy, all that hate, all that anger, all came out.
And he found that he had this physical rage in him.
And he beat this kid badly in front of a lot of witnesses.
As a youngster, you go through things until you lay your game down, you know, and once he fights somebody or whatever, then you gain your respect.
That suddenly made him realize that, you know, he had power in those fists.
He enjoyed fighting. He enjoyed to beat up those kids.
His whole sort of persona changed at that point.
He became more of the aggressor in the streets rather than the victim.
He became not Mike, not Big Head. He became Mike Tyson.
Mike's schooling was in and out. He really didn't have much schooling.
Even though he was not educated, you know, academically, he was outstanding, smart, like a whip.
He started running the streets with friends, a gang.
He was doing, you know, muggings by the time he was 10 or 11.
We used to do like a lot of burglaries, snatching chains, strong arm robberies, you know. That's what Mike came in. He was so strong back then. We used to like use him just to hit the people.
He would stand outside supermarkets and offer to carry some poor woman's heavy packages back to the project.
And I've taken him out.
Once he got them alone in an elevator, he would knock out their teeth and grab their pocketbook.
For Mike, it was an adrenaline rush. Just snatch somebody's chain just to get away. Wow, just to laugh about it or snatch a pocket out and laugh about it later on.
He would see if he could get away with doing something, and that was his drive.
But he wasn't a professional criminal. So, you know, the law caught up with him a lot.
Between the age of 10 and 12, Tyson was, by all reports, arrested 38 times.
Assault, 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 pickpocketing, assault.
After numerous arrests, point finally comes where the judicial system concludes you must be sent to someplace. Then Mike Tyson, around the age of 11, was sent to Spofford, which was a juvenile detention center in the Bronx.
Well, Spofford was a place that shouldn't have existed.
Spofford was basically a dungeon.
It's not a place to rehabilitate kids. It's a place to destroy kids. It's a place to forget about kids.
It's a place where bad things happen to bad kids.
And if they're a little off, they become very off after going through the tortures and atrocities that go on in Spofford. Kids are raped.
Tyson has gone on the record saying how he was physically assaulted there several times.
I don't know what happened to Tyson in there. All I know is a couple things. I know he was in there. I know what kind of place it was. So I could imagine what happened in there.
He says life down there, you know, was hard.
But there was this chance encounter. While Mike was at Spofford, about 1977-78, Muhammad Ali was a visitor there.
Ali went there and he spoke and talked to them about to respect the law, to be nice.
Muhammad Ali was a great ambassador of boxing. He would visit homes, he would visit hospitals. Perhaps it was a little bit of inspiration. Muhammad Ali, greatness, adoration. Maybe this is a path through boxing where I can follow also.
That's where really he began to see that there was one way out of this life.
That's when Mike had to change his mind. That's what I want to do. I want to be a fighter.
Mike got older and kept getting in trouble.
His mother finally agreed with the courts that his behavior had become unmanageable. She signed him over to the state.
When he was 12, he went to Tryon Reformatory.
He had not gone to school on a regular basis, and he was extremely aggressive.
He was quickly sent to the Elmwood Cottage, which was the cottage for the most incorrigible, baddest boys. There was a guy named Bobby Stewart.
Bobby Stewart was a counselor.
He was a guy who had been a boxer and was training kids up there.
Mike went to Bobby Stewart and asked him if he would teach him how to box.
If you want me to work with you when I come in at night, I will, but you got to perform during the day.
Bobby Stewart promised him, I'll teach you some things if you do everything else right. Mike loved the idea.
Something changed. He went from a 3rd to a 7th grade reading level because he tried. And just like that, changed.
Finally, Bobby said, we'll go to the gym and we'll see what you've got.
Skills. He was exceptionally strong. He was a boy entrapped in a man's body. Well, this one time he caught me, the hardest I've ever been hit was just a straight left jab. And broke my nose.
Bobby was extremely impressed with how hard he could hit.
That's something you can't teach. That's something you have to be born with.
There were stories about guards coming to Mike's room in the middle of the night, seeing Mike practicing the techniques.
The lights are out, doors are locked. He would practice till 2, 3 in the morning. That's what got me thinking. Look how he's improved in a couple of months, 3, 4 months. What happens if he continues, if he sticks with it?
Bobby knew that his ability to train Mike only went so far, and that if Mike was to really progress, he had to be with somebody like a Cus D'Amato.
Cus was half a genius and half a crank.
Cus D'Amato was very well known in boxing, but had been out of the scene for many years.
He had trained Floyd Patterson to the heavyweight championship of the world.
Also, Jose Torres, the light heavyweight champion.
He loved boxing, and he loved not only the physical aspect, but more importantly, the intellectual and emotional aspect.
Punches come from me, you're moving with it. Even if he hits you, you're moving with it.
He was a man who had been at the top, but now he was semi-retired, way up in Catskill, and he had a couple kids in the gym. So Bobby calls up Gus and says, I got this kid. He's a big kid, but I can't really show him no more.
The Catskill gym on Main Street above police headquarters. And that's the gym that Mike Tyson first walked into with Bobby Stewart to meet Cus.
When they got into the ring together, Bobby Stewart and Tyson.
Bobby Stewart, who was more or less kicking his butt.
But Mike kept coming. He wasn't discouraged.
Tyson knew he was on audition. He knew he was months away from being paroled. And where was he gonna go? Back to Brownsville?
Deep inside that said in Mike's mind, I better do this or I'm dead.
Cus saw Tyson's ability when they got out of the ring. I mean, D'Amato called Bobby Stewart aside.
Cus was taking my gloves off, and I said, what do you think? He said, barring outside distractions, that's a heavyweight champion of the world.
The first day of the rest of my life.
Cus immediately started making arrangements for him to be paroled into our custody.
Mike wanted to stay and be with Cus, and Cus was willing to have him.
Here's this street kid from Brownsville, toughest, worst section of New York. Now living in a 14-room mansion.
The grounds were spacious and overlooked the Hudson.
When he first got there, he was pretty withdrawn and quiet and mistrustful, as one might expect. It was such a different universe from what he was used to. He would live in Cus's house with these other kids, all sort of fractured kids with emotional problems.
A lot of the fighters who were there with Mike had come from broken homes, you know. They had similar backgrounds.
Camille ran the house, which was Cus's lady friend at the time. They all had to go along, who had to do the dishes, who set up the silverware.
Put that in front of Cus right there. Yeah. Leave the macaroni in front of me.
The meals were always prompt, on time, and you better be there.
There's a lot of affection between everyone. They were like a family.
In time, you can see it would warm up and the love that he had for Cus.
Once Mike started to open up and show Cus his real side, that he was a real person, Cus became very close to Mike.
Mike was like the favorite child.
Cus was the first person who understood Mike.
His feelings for Mike grew stronger, not so much as trainer, fighter, but more like a father figure.
Mike, it's like catching a ball.
By the summer of '81, there was a real bond.
He did bond with Cus D'Amato and with Teddy Atlas, who was the real sort of hands-on trainer.
That's it. There you go. Now you got again.
Cus was the architect, and Atlas was the carpenter.
He had a style that was created that made him exceptionally elusive and exceptionally difficult to hit. So that if you threw a punch, not only did you miss, but you were punished for even throwing a punch.
I used to see him in the gym knocking people out, knocking guys out. Bah!
They started bringing in professional fighters for Mike to spar with. That was the only way he could really get a chance to test all of this mechanism that was going on.
Here, Mike is 14 years old, and I'm 25. Thought I was the man. I learned the hard way with Mike. Once that bell rang, it was time to go to war.
I started taking him to these smokers to get fights.
These smokers are down in the South Bronx, and you'd fight, one gym versus another gym.
None of them was sanctioned. Most of them had wages on them.
It's not an arena, it's not professional, it's not a tournament, but it gives the fighter a chance to go in there and show his stuff.
First day I fought Mike Tyson was, it was really unbelievable. We got a 17-year-old Spanish kid to fight him. It was his first fight. The kid wasn't bad, but Tyson was good. He was perpetual motion and punching, and then he caught the guy in the third round. Bang, the right hand. Mouthpiece goes flying. And that's where the legend started of Tyson.
Ready or not, here I come. You can't hide.
Quickly, he began to have success as an amateur boxer.
Mike excited the crowd when he fought. He was tenacious, he had the speed, he had the power.
He advanced very quickly.
At the age of 14, Mike went to the Junior Olympics out in Colorado Springs and knocked this kid out in 10 seconds. They were calling him the 10-second man. And the next year he goes back and breaks his own record, knocks the kid out in 8 seconds.
Hey, cuz, fastest knockout ever.
How you doing, Coach? I'm just trying to win.
Everyone felt he was one of the guys who was going to be the future of, amateur boxing in the United States. But he didn't feel that. All he felt was fear if he ever lost.
We were defending his title.
He was going in to fight, and he was in the locker room, and he was fully in his boxing gear and his robe, and he was beginning to crack emotionally.
Before the finals, about an hour before the bout took place, Mike decided to go for a little walk outside with Teddy. Mike just broke down in Teddy's arms.
Mike started crying. It was a big scene out there.
He was still an inexperienced kid. You still have to deal with the reality of getting in the ring.
Emotions is a big thing for a fighter before a fight.
Look, just relax, Michael. Relax, just relax.
So he started talking to me and saying, "My people like me now, Ted." And I said, "Yeah, they like you." He says, "They're proud of me. People think I'm a fighter, and they like to be around me now."
Everybody likes me. Everyone likes you now. That's right. You have a reason to be proud.
And he's saying, if I lose, nobody will love me.
We've done it already 20 times. We've done it in the gym.
I remember just saying to him, as long as you keep yourself together and remember the kind of person you're supposed to be, everything's going to be okay.
Let's go get ready for a fight.
Finally, they got him in the ring, and he knocked the guy out in a matter of seconds.
He was so happy about it. Look at that, I did it. Everybody was excited.
Look at old Tyson. He's rolling on the ground with joy. 6 bouts, 6 knockouts. He's got a tremendous career ahead of him.
Log on to VH1.com to see rare footage and photos of Mike Tyson. And check out early photos and footage of all Driven artists.
What doesn't make a NASCAR Winston Cup driver is what your name is. It's got to be performance, talent, desire.
Driven, Dale Earnhardt Jr. premieres tomorrow at 10/9 Central.
He's going to drive, he's going to scream, he's going to claw all the way to the front.
On VH1. VH1.com gives you live music anytime, anywhere. Stripped down and intimate. Fresh new faces and your favorite artists like you've never seen them before. Your own private concert right at your fingertips. Right now on live at VH1.com. Melissa Etheridge, Bare Naked Ladies, and more. Live at VH1.com. Anytime, anywhere.
Isn't that crazy?
Mike was still living with Cus in the Catskills area.
I think it was hard for him up there. I think, you know, because they're so slow up there, you know, like country, and he was a wild kid.
It was such a small community that everybody was pretty much the same. So Mike was really a little bit different.
But there was still always his mom, you know, back in New York.
Mike used to go back down to Brownsville to see his mother on a regular basis. There's times where he would get frustrated in the gym and tell Cuss, I'm leaving, and he would go back to his mother. Somebody to talk to, someone to confide in.
And then one day, he learns that, you know, his mom is sick.
She hadn't been feeling well. I don't think we first learned about the cancer until it was almost the end. Mike was 16 when his mother died.
I remember that day. It was almost like he was looking to see how he should behave having lost a mother.
Mike took it very hard. It was a blow for him.
He was pretty profoundly affected by her loss.
He came to the neighborhood and he was like kind of messed up.
It was like, you know, somebody there one minute and next minute they're gone.
Mike was very depressed after his mother died, and school didn't really help much at all.
Things started happening in school.
He would have tantrums, he would go berserk, he would overturn chairs, he would throw things.
There was one incident where he threw milk cartons all over the cafeteria.
Stories that he's taking kids' lunch money, that he's in the hallway where it's crowded, he bumps a girl into a bathroom. Hands go down her pants.
And I'd say, you don't pull on girls.
Mike was a terror.
He wasn't disciplined the way he should have been by D'Amato.
Cuss would go and he would make a friendship with the assistant principal, and the next thing you know, they'd work it out.
He would tend to play a lot of it down.
This is a special kid, he has special needs. Catskill has never had anybody special like this. He can make Catskill very famous.
Cuss began to sell himself out. He began to sell out his principles. He was an old man who wasn't going to live much longer. He knew that, and this was going to be his last great champion.
Things started to change in the makeup of the house. Tyson was seeing that he had special privileges. He was above the law, and he was testing those boundaries, especially with his teacher, me. My sister-in-law, Susie, was 11 years old. Tyson was almost 17. He grabbed her and told her what he was going to do to her sexually and put his hands on her. So I was really angry. I felt very betrayed. And I wasn't going to let my family be treated this way.
Teddy went to a bar. It was owned by a friend of his. He said, I need a gun. He gave him the gun, and he waited for Tyson outside the gym. And Tyson showed up in the evening.
I pulled him off to the side. Took the gun out after that and put it to him. And told him that he was a piece of shit, and that if he ever did anything like that to my family again, I'd kill him. And I said, you better understand that this is the last conversation we're going to have. Because the next time, you're not going to see me, but you are going to be dead. I put the gun in his ear. I made his ear bleed because I stuck it in hard, and he fell down. And I left him there. I said, now you understand.
Mike went home crying to Cuss and explained to him what happened, very emotional, very scared.
That story got back to Cuss in a twisted way from Tyson.
He was not punished for it. He should have been kicked out of the gym for 3 months.
In the end, Atlas was ultimately banished from Catskill and returned to New York, and Mike Tyson stayed and had learned an important lesson. If you're good enough, the rules mean nothing.
Mike was reaching higher levels, winning the Junior Olympics and Junior Nationals.
Most people assumed that Mike Tyson would be on the Olympic team. When the Olympic trials began in 1984, Mike Tyson was the favorite to be representing the United States in the heavyweight division. But as it turned out, he was beaten by Henry Tillman, and Mike Tyson had to go back to Catskill, New York as a failure.
Mike is pretty upset after the fight. It was like a big letdown to Mike.
And all Cuss talked about was winning. Cuss talked about Jack Johnson, Joe Louis, Rocky Marciano, champions. Mike Tyson wanted to show Cuss, I can do this. And it hurts when you don't do it.
For a lot of boxers, if you fail to make the Olympic team, well, this can be a shattering experience. That was not really allowed to happen with Mike Tyson.
Cus had the vision to know to get the amateurs. Mike needed experience. And the way to get experience in boxing is only one way: fighting professional fights. Jim Jacobs and Bill Caton had been managing fighters out of New York City.
They were closely associated with Cus D'Amato. They basically funded Cus's house upstate.
They just believed Cus, and that's why they began to invest.
His career began in March of '85.
There was a lot of interest in him as far as that kid from Catskill.
Well, ticket sales continue to boom for the Mike Tyson-led fight card at the RPI Fieldhouse.
Everyone went to see him fight. They wanted to see Mike knock somebody out.
That's what I'm looking for.
And against these opponents in early fights, he didn't disappoint them.
He was plowing through these guys, knocking them out in the first and second rounds.
You couldn't go to the bathroom or blink your eye because Mike's fight would be over.
He was just like ripping through people. It was pretty awesome to watch.
He was a terrifying figure, and that sells.
How you doing? Hey, how you doing, my man? Hey, gonna be the next champ or what? That's why I'm in the business for, of course.
He never could believe that he was that good. The tough street kid became this awesome fighter. And like, whoa, wait a minute, is this really me?
Word was getting around that there was this hellacious knockout machine who was now coming up through the ranks.
Added to that was Cus D'Amato, this ascetic training this young prodigy.
When Jimmy Jacobs and Bill Caton spun the story, it became the story of the kindly old man in the autumn of his life, taking this poor boy off the streets and turning his life around by making him a fighter.
It was just a natural, the old man and the kid.
I believe that a person dies when they no longer wants to live. But I have a reason with Mike here. And he gives me the motivation. I will stay alive, and I will watch him become a success.
Together, they were going to win the heavyweight championship of the world. But they didn't get there together.
Cus, in 1985, contracted pneumonia.
On November 4th, 1985, Cus D'Amato dies. Mike Tyson is 19 years old. He's a kid and he's alone.
Cus's death was devastating.
I knew how close Mike was to Cus, and I was scared for him. I was like, man.
I never saw Mike so sad, ever.
That was his father. That man took his father's place, you know.
Basically, when he looked at his life, what he saw was loss, loss, loss. Now, this old man who took me in, now he's gone too.
Mike was crying. I didn't have enough time with Cus. He didn't teach me everything he knows. Who's going to take care of me now?
I compose the sayings on the Valentine's Day Candy Hearts. This year, my muse is VH1. Their Valentine's Day lineup's inspiring some really great sentiments of love, with shows like Shortest Celebrity Marriages, Pure Modern Romance, Super Secret Movie Formulas, and that Mariah Carey movie's a tough one. Dazzle, Gold, Shine, Too Bright, Glitter Baby. The pressure's on, but hey, they don't call me the King of Hearts for nothing. Sponsored by Best Buy. Thousands of possibilities. Get yours.
This one has tons of storage space.
Great. The chefs will love that.
Chefs. We have a lot of washers and dryers.
After Cus died, I'm sure that Mike wanted to just get lost in his life.
This guy was like God to him.
I honestly believe a good part of him died. And he leaned heavily on Jim Jacobs.
Jimmy Jacobs immediately stepped in. The deal always was that he and Bill Caton would be the managers. But Jacobs was there to sort of almost seamlessly replace Cuss.
That's cool.
There was a conscious theory to have a fight every 3 or 4 weeks.
That was Cuss's thing. Keep him fighting, keep him busy. That way he'll stay out of trouble.
They knew they were handling a time bomb.
Mike exploded in '86.
As Tyson was becoming one of the top contenders, the heavyweight title was fractured in many parts.
There were 3 organizations, 3 world champions.
HBO thought of something unique, and that is getting all the heavyweight champions from all the different organizations into one tournament, shown exclusively on HBO.
They wanted to unify the title. They wanted to have one champion.
We had made a deal with Don King and Butch Lewis for a heavyweight World Series. They really promoted all of the top heavyweights, with the exception of Tyson.
But back then it was him. When you thought a heavyweight started Mike Tyson ripping through people.
We realized that for the credibility of the series, we had to sign Tyson.
Mike entered the HBO tournament in 1986 and got his opportunity to fight Trevor Berbick in Las Vegas. Mike is now 20 years old.
Move outside and let the man go through. Let the man go through.
Would Mike be able to take with him into the ring all of the things that Cuss taught him? That was the million-dollar question.
This is the main event of the night. 12 rounds of boxing for the WBC Championship of the World.
For Mike, that was the moment he's been waiting for.
He was there with bad intentions.
Berbick had no idea what hit him.
Berbick just trying to get through the round. He's hurt, no question.
In the second round, Tyson hit him with a left hook.
The punch that was replayed on TV over and over and over again.
Hold it now. Berbick is down. This one is going to be over, I believe.
A fighter going down 3 times from one punch.
It's over. That's all. And we have a new era in boxing.
Mike Tyson is the youngest heavyweight champion ever.
Mike had done it. And of course, first thing you do is thank Cus D'Amato.
I'd like to dedicate my fight to my great guardian, Cus D'Amato, and I'm sure he's up there and he's looking and he's talking to all the great fighters and saying his boy did it.
The night that he won the title, he was beside himself. He was standing in the mirror holding up the belt because he couldn't believe it.
Oh, yeah!
After the championship against Berbick, he wins his next title belt against James Bone Crusher Smith. 4 months later, fights Tony Tucker. And now, for the first time in many years, one fighter and one fighter only is the heavyweight champion of the world, and that's Mike Tyson.
I'm the hottest thing around.
Boxing had been panting for a great heavyweight champion.
Represent that.
A champion who had more than skills.
Mike was electric. Everybody was like talking about him.
Represent that.
He was immediately the #1 sports star in America.
That's right. Say no to crack so you can live.
He's everybody's hero. It was unreal.
Wherever he go, you see a crowd. If he's in a car, if somebody's driving him somewhere, you seen people chasing a car.
What he been through, everybody was like, yeah, there's somebody that made it like the neighborhood.
The more he got popular, the more women came out.
He started dating some of the most incredible women.
Beverly Johnson, this world-famous model.
Naomi Campbell.
Suzette Charles was Miss America.
this Miss America and this knockout machine from Brownsville. You know what? Are you kidding me?
Robin and Mike hooked up in late '87.
Robin Givens was a young, rising star.
She was on head of the class.
And he had his people call her people, and that's sort of how their relationship began. It became the storybook. The beautiful actress who had gone to Sarah Lawrence College and this, rough street customer who became heavyweight champion.
It became Beauty and the Beast.
He was smitten, and they seemed very natural together.
Now they enter a new factor. Now Robin is pregnant. And they decided to get married and did get married in late January of '88. Now they're husband and wife.
And slowly things began to change.
The baby that was there, it wasn't there, it was there, it wasn't there.
There seems to be a great debate on whether or not she actually ever became pregnant or this was just a ruse to convince Mike Tyson to marry her.
Now, maybe I was misled, but my impression was that Robin Givens was not a bad person. She truly loved Mike.
We have a lot in common, traditional families, and we just sort of love each other.
I thought it was a joke, but hey, she did a good job in luring him in.
People saying, well, she got the right name, Robin Tyson, and that's what she was doing.
That's when his tower started to crumble. That was the beginning of his fall.
Not long after his fairy tale marriage to the beautiful actress Robin Givens, Tyson suffers another loss. Jimmy Jacobs dies, which to him is unexpected.
In the mid-'80s, Jim Jacobs told Bill Caton and I that he had leukemia. Many people believe that Jim should have told Mike he was ill. Jim did not tell him.
That was a 1-2, across Jacobs. Boom, boom.
When Jimmy died, everything unraveled.
He lost all hope. There was nothing there.
Many things in Mike's life changed drastically.
All these new characters came on the scene, and suddenly you could kind of see the wheels turning.
And a battle ensues very quickly between the forces of his wife, the sort of familiar faces from Catskill, and this third figure coming out of the muck and mire of boxing, Don King, who was really the most feared force in boxing.
It is about green power, money.
Don King actually showed up at Jim Jacobs' memorial service and was trying to get Mike Tyson to sign on a dotted line at the funeral.
Too many pressures from every angle.
Everybody wants control of Mike Tyson.
They didn't even give this guy enough time to sit back. They just went in there and, I don't know, man, they messed my man up.
Every Friday night at 11, VH1 takes a look back on the week everyone is talking about. The best week ever. This week...
I hate Valentine's Day.
Oh, I love...
Outwardly, it appeared Mike Tyson was sitting on top of the world, but underneath it all, there was nothing but problems.
Cuss had died, then Jimmy Jacobs died. Things started swirling around him very quickly after that.
The same time that he had Don King influencing him in one ear, Robin Givens began to issue quotes and make noises about how Mike was entitled to govern his own affairs.
If Michael has $50 million and he's supposed to have $70 million, there's a problem.
He was being pulled in this direction and that direction.
People, they just took advantage of him.
His personal life, the management, the marriage, and all of the things going on around him, he wasn't in a very happy place.
Despite the fact that Mike Tyson had become this phenomenon, bigger than his sport, he still had a hole in his resume. Michael Spinks, also undefeated.
Spinks had the credentials that none of the previous opponents had had. Unbeaten record, Olympic gold medal, light heavyweight championship. It was regarded by some as the first real, serious challenge to whether Mike could win.
Mike knew that one time in his career, what Cuss told him would happen would happen. He'd be in a moment that the whole world would watch. And Mike knew it was going to be this Spinks fight.
Now we'll see who's the champion
and who's the chump. The build-up to the fight was huge. It was tremendous.
At that point, it was the biggest money fight ever.
It was the biggest sporting event in the world.
Ever since I was 13 years old, 12 and a half, I've been groomed to become heavyweight champion of the world.
I don't run from anybody. I've never ran from anybody.
I just want to win. I'm obsessed with it.
For the first time in 17 years, two heavyweights, each of whom is seen by the large segment of the public as a legitimate champion, get ready to meet each other in the ring.
The arena was on fire. There couldn't have been more energy in the building.
Just celebrities everywhere. It was pretty happening scene.
Everybody knew something was going to happen here. No one was 100% sure what it was.
Just before the fight is to take place, there's tremendous turmoil in Tyson's dressing room.
Spinks was promoted by Butch Lewis, a bombastic guy who decides he's going to break down Mike Tyson's mind in some way.
Butch Lewis went wild after he discovered that Mike Tyson had the gloves put on without a representative of Spinks' camp being in Tyson's dressing room.
He burst into his locker room, insisted his gloves be taken off, and he wants his hands to be rewrapped.
Mike is just waiting. No matter how he felt within, he has to do what he has to do.
Finally, the head of the Jersey Commission says his wraps are fine.
Mike just walked into the ring. In that moment, he's the happiest because now the fight's on. It's happened.
Come on! Tyson along the ropes doing damage.
He caught Spinks with a tremendous punch right underneath the heart and dropped Spinks.
Spinks went down.
Spinks got up, and within a matter of seconds, he got hit with two huge.
And he's down again and in serious trouble. A right hand right on the chin.
You could have counted to 100, and Michael Spinks was not going to get up.
Mike knocked him out, starched him in 90 seconds.
It lasted a minute and a half.
In 91 seconds, Mike Tyson had shown the world who the undisputed heavyweight champion was. And then he turned and spread his arms in the direction of Robin Givens, who was standing in front, applauding him.
The world is yours. The world is yours.
And the Spinks fight was the high point of his career, because at that point he was able to convert the chaos in his life into fire.
He knew he was on top of the world.
He had done what he set out to do.
At that moment, he was everything the world said he was going to be. He was everything Cus D'Amato promised him he would be. He was the greatest heavyweight champion ever.
The world was ready to be conquered by Mike Tyson. He had it in his hands, and then he threw it all away.
Within a year and a half, Mike Tyson would lose the heavyweight title, he would lose his wife, he would lose everything that he thought he had.
Where Mike has been the last 15 years has been a very bad place.
Here's a guy who, it seemed like he's crying out for certain things.
The problem was not that he lacked self-esteem, his problem was that he lacked self. There was no sense of self there.
He was not fortified in any way emotionally like a man is.
I don't think he's much of a hero anymore, and that's really sad.
There's a sympathy for Mike now. There's a feeling that he's been so damaged by his life that Mike didn't really have a chance to get it straight.
He was a human being, not just a boxer and a champion.
So in the end, who was he? Mike Tyson never knew who he was, and in the end, we don't know who he was either.